I wonder how many cultures are represented in this room today. And I wonder what it was like when our parents were our age. Who did they see in the media? Did they see any minorities as powerful role models? When I was 4, my parents emigrated from Pakistan to the UK. And growing up, I had somewhat of a restricted childhood compared to my classmates. Where my classmates had boyfriends, I wasn't allowed to date, ever. And sleepovers and school trips were out of the question. I mean, God forbid I left the warm, protective clutches of my family home while the sun was down. And it wasn't just my social life that was fixed. My future was fixed too. Career meant 3 things: doctor, lawyer, accountant. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're really great, important jobs. But the thought of them made my eyes roll to the back of my head. But let's just say I took one of those paths. Friends of a similar culture had their career cut short to get married. So my life's end goal was to have an arranged marriage. Like that Stevie Wonder song, my fate was signed, sealed, and delivered. So was it any wonder that I totally lacked ambition? I gave up before trying. I failed my GCSEs because I didn't lift a page to revise. I thought, what's the point? So as a result of total lack of effort, I had to repeat a year at school. I remember I went to college, I was 16, I came home, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I switched the TV on. Back then we had those clicky remotes. And I saw something unusual. I saw a sight I'd never seen before. I saw a woman of colour. She had her own show. She had an audience, and guests came on, and people listened to her. She was running the show. And that she was Oprah. I watched Oprah every day. I watched her grow on the show and address many important issues. Watching that woman of colour on TV made me realise that there were more than 3 career options for me, that I could be more than someone's wife. Watching that woman of colour on TV planted a seed of hope that fed ambition, that blossomed into belief, a belief that never before existed. It made me realise a passion I had deep within myself that had lain dormant for many years. And you know, I started dreaming of one day running my own business and inspiring others. And now I'm so grateful and blessed to be running my own business where I am inspiring others through coaching and speaking. But you know, I always wonder, what would have happened without that realization of something more, of something different? Maybe I would not have studied, and maybe I would have failed again at college. And maybe I would not have applied for that first job that led me to where I am today. And maybe, actually, I probably would have married someone I didn't love, settled for a life where I would have felt unfulfilled. See, my point is, I never would have thought this life possible for me had I not seen a powerful role model in the media during my formative years. And what if there are other young men and women out there who felt the same, who thought, you know what, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to get married. I don't know if I want to become a doctor like my dad. But because they didn't have any validation during their formative years to show them that there were different paths than the ones laid before them by their culture and by their parents. So they settled. See, these formative moments, they can be events or circumstances that shape beliefs. And within these moments, we achieve a perceptual shift that changes the way we see the world. And those shifts define what is and isn't possible. One of the most powerful ways of accomplishing this shift is through visible diversity, like media representation. Let's explore that for a second. Leslie Jones, she's a hilarious stand-up comedian. She's a cast of Saturday Night Live, and she's also one of the latest stars on the Ghostbusters remake movie. During an interview, Leslie Jones talks about her role model, Whoopi Goldberg. Jones said watching Goldberg on TV when she was a kid led her to believe that she too could be on TV. Jones said she watched Goldberg stand up every day. And now, as a star in her own right, Leslie Jones knows when she takes the stage, she's showing millions of girls what's possible for them. See, our view of ourselves and our view of those different from ourselves is influenced by the media. What we see has the power to inspire people to pursue their dream, like it did for Leslie and like it did for me. But this issue of diversity is not just for minorities to see, it's critical for dominant groups to see varied portrayals of minorities in the media. Imagine for a moment, imagine 9 of the 10 images you saw of white men were pickpockets. Just imagine for a second, right? Everywhere you saw white men portrayed as pickpockets. If you were standing next to one on the train or the tube, you kind of edge away a bit, right? You'll clutch your bag a little bit closer, you'll check where your wallet is, right? You're not being prejudiced, you're being prudent. And it would be okay for us to make this assumption because we use the media to make informed decisions about our lives. See, the point is, if the vast majority of our interaction with groups different from ourselves is through media representation, then obviously what we see has a significant influence in how we view and treat those groups. The more we see something, the more we believe it to be true. Why do you think politicians court the media? And why do you think non-democratic governments censor the media? It's because they know the media has a powerful sway on public opinion. A few months ago here in the UK, we had the opportunity to vote on whether we remain or leave the EU. Concerns over unchecked immigration played a significant role in the Leave EU campaign. And most infamous was a picture of one of the leaders of the Leave campaign who's pointing to a poster, thousands of immigrants, clearly non-British nationals, and the implication of that image was simple. Foreigners equals threat. EU equals foreigners. And after the vote, 2 things happened. One, there was a sudden spike in the Google search term, "What is Brexit?" And 2, there was a sudden increase in the reported incidents of racism. See, perhaps if we see more diversity in the media, not just days, not just weeks, but regularly, then perhaps this messaging, foreigners are a threat, might not have been so powerful. I mean, headlines like the Financial Times, migrants set up 1 in 7 UK companies, or The Guardian's, migrants contribute 25 billion to the UK economy. Informative headlines. But science shows we don't connect with numbers. We connect with people. Perhaps if we'd seen regular coverage, regular stories of minorities, normalizing them, integrating them into our lives, perhaps we would have felt less threatened and more accepting of minorities. So not only is diversity in the media important for dominant groups to be more inclusive and more accepting, seeing powerful role model in the media has the power to motivate you to achieve your full potential. Dr. Friedman of Vanderbilt University, he led a study where he gave 20 questions during the 2008 US presidential campaign. He gave the test to about 500 Americans. Approximately 80% of the test takers were white Americans, and approximately 20% of them were African Americans. First test, pre-election, the results of the test, the white Americans on average scored 12 out of 20, and the African Americans on average 8.5 out of 20. The second test was administered after President Obama's election victory. Test scores of the African Americans improved such that the gap between the white and the African Americans was not statistically significant. This experiment shows seeing a positive role model in the media has the power to motivate you to achieve your full potential. Now, diversity in the media might not change the world, but seeing someone in power that's more like you has the power to wake up dormant forces within you. Like it did for those African American kids taking a test, and like it did for Leslie Jones, and like it did for me. And by the way, why are we still calling it diversity? Shonda Rhimes says it's about normalizing the media, making media reflect society. I mean, aren't we past diversity? Definition of diversity is radically different. It stems from the Latin diversus, which means opposites. We're not opposites. We have more in common than what sets us apart. What would be more appropriate is inclusive, inclusion. We need to include more people in opportunities and the conversation. According to the latest UK census, the number of ethnic minorities in the UK doubled in the past decade, which means 1 in 5 are from an ethnic minority. So that means on your way over here, if you travelled on the tube or the train and you're on one of those 10-seaters, then 2 of them will be from an ethnic minority. So we're no longer radically different. We are the norm. But the media does not reflect this norm. I still see mainstream media, conference speaker lineup, book author lists with names like James, Jane, Joe dominate. What about Jaideep? What about Jing? What about Yana? A few points. According to the Policy Exchange report, the number of ethnic minorities could account for 30% of the UK population by 2050. So that means one person on either side of you will be from an ethnic minority, unless, of course, you are the minority. And 2, ethnic minorities account for 5% of employment in the media industry. And between 2009 and 2012, overall employment in creative industries grew by 4,000, but the number of minorities employed fell by 2,000. What this means is if we have fewer ethnic minorities in the creative and media industries, the industries that paint the canvases of our lives, the visions of what's possible for society, then how do you think unconscious bias will continue to play out? And 3rd, ethnic minorities account for the highest unemployment rate in the UK. So if you put these together, rapidly growing population, underrepresented in media and creative industries, and overrepresented in the job centre, this has the potential to exacerbate the current state of underrepresentation, stereotypical representation, and not only does it mean that whites control the story, an incomplete story, but we could be corroding social mobility and the potential creation. Now, I mentioned earlier the culture where I was raised, girls are dolled up and married off to people they've never met before. That was my expectation. And one evening I was watching my favourite Friday night sitcom. I was in my mid-20s, watching The Ellen Show. One episode, Ellen's character came out and said, "I'm gay." That was the first time I'd ever seen a gay woman on TV. Now, homosexuality is illegal in the country I was born, out of the question in the culture I was raised, and in some countries it's punishable by death. If I hadn't watched that woman on TV who came and said she's gay, I might have married someone whom I didn't love and settled for a life where I would have been unhappy. Instead, because I saw that woman, that minority, I realized forbidden feelings I had deeply suppressed. I made different choices. And now I'm so grateful to be with my wife. We've been together for over 9.5 years, and we've raised a gorgeous girl who will be 7 next month. She's a feisty Bengal cat. And I'm happy and I'm free. See, when we're searching for identity, sometimes it's hard to see yourself until you see yourself in others. But if those others are missing from the media landscape, you're lost. Now, I'm not suggesting inclusion in the media will solve social mobility and will achieve equality everywhere. But the power of inclusion can at least do one thing. It can at least help us remove our own barriers. It can at least help us tear down our own disbeliefs. It can at least help us change our own internal conversation about what's possible for us, like it did for me. And inclusion in the media doesn't mean we remove opportunities from people. It means we show we all have opportunities. And inclusion in the media doesn't mean we remove dominant groups. It means we show we all have unlimited potential. Because exclusion darkens progress. Inclusion illuminates it. Exclusion stifles innovation. Inclusion fuels it. And exclusion diminishes hope. Inclusion ignites it. Thank you.